Good afternoon and welcome to the March 26th edition of the Gold, Goats, and Guns Short News. My name is Tom Luongo. We've got a lot to talk about. Not going to talk about Brexit today, though. Today I want to talk about something even more important, or maybe not more important than Brexit, but certainly nearly as important as Brexit, and that is the EU Parliament's passing of their new comprehensive copyright law, known in common parlance as Article 11 and Article 13. I want to talk about this today because this is important. And I've been watching some stuff about it. I've been thinking about it for a long time. I haven't talked about it much, if at all, simply because I just don't have a lot of, well, let's just put it this way. The EU's not going to not do, was never going to not do this. So before we go any further, though, let's get brass tacks out of the way. Please give a like and subscribe. Share this far and wide. Do the thing. That'll be great. I really appreciate it. A reminder, tonight I'll be on with my friends Halsey at English and Dustin Gold over on Deplorable TV, as well as I do a live stream on Monday nights at 8 and Friday nights at 8:30. You can follow me over on Twitter at TFL1728. You can also follow my work over at goldgoatsandguns.com or tomluongo.me. Your choice. And if you go over there, you can subscribe to my Patreon and give me or donate via PayPal. There are links in the description to the video down below. Okay, let's get started. All right. So, Article 11, what is it? It's the link tax, right? It's the license to share. So if you write a blog post or you put up a YouTube video and you link, excuse me, and you put a link to somebody else's material, you owe that person some form of you want you to remunerate that person via having an established license with that person, with that content provider, in order to, and then pay them a licensing fee in order to link to their work, which is insane. The next thing is Article 13, which is commonly known as the upload filter. And that's where we, as content creators, have to be responsible, are now responsible, and the platforms themselves that we use to upload our material to, we're now all responsible for the use of copyrighted material. We were before, under the US law, it's pretty much just, if I upload something, an article or whatever, with copyrighted material, then it's up to the rights holder to inform WordPress that I've violated their copyright. Now, I've run into this a couple of times in the past using stuff that was linked via reports from Citibank, for example. I got dinged on this one time, and I'm wondering, in some ways, why that was, since I linked to an article on Zero Hedge, which then published it for the world to see, and then I just copied it from somebody, copied it from them, and I got dinged and they didn't. Very interesting. I fought it, but it didn't matter. WordPress just took it down because that's what they do. But the EU now wants everybody to be proactive here. Now they want, in every way, they want YouTube and Facebook and everybody else to stop the material from happening and being uploaded in the first place. This is going to have a huge chilling effect over the course of time on the ability of people to actually communicate. And we all know this. Right. We all know that that's what the goal is here, because what this is a barrier to entry. This is a very classic barrier to entry problem that large corporations or large rights holders, they always do this. It doesn't matter what the industry. We've now just seen this. We're now moving into this phase with the internet. But it doesn't matter if it's cable franchises or railroads or banking or whatever. It's just typical barrier to entry stuff where they're trying to raise the barrier to entry for somebody else to enter the market so that they can continue to hold on to the market. And we all know that it's been the plan of a great number of people who are associated with the creation of the European Union, that group I kind of like to call the Davos crowd, the unelected financiers and billionaires and whatnot that stand behind the politicians and fund the politicians to pass these laws. So it's not just the record industry, it's not just the film industry, it's really people like George Soros who don't want who want to have control, complete control, over what information is going to be seen. Now, in places like Russia and China, they already have these things in place, right? There's no free internet in Russia. There's no free internet in China. People still get the information they want via VPNs, but this rule goes one step further. Okay, this is trying to now stop the use and dissemination of anything other than material that is the regime party line. So no longer would I be able to, for example, go grab an excerpt from an article in Der Spiegel to comment on it, comment on Mrs. Merkel's ridiculous policy in order to make a point. I'm not allowed to do that now. Not without paying Der Spiegel to use their 100 words. Now, on the opposite side of it, if Der Spiegel wanted to quote my work, I'd give it to him for free. See, and that's the way you get around this. We as small rights holders, all right, we as small-time producers are not going to charge a license fee for our work. If we did, we would be stupid. Because links, mashups, excerpts, scraping the articles, whatnot. I get asked all the time by people, is it okay, Tom, if we reprint your article with attribution? I'm like, absolutely. Anybody who wants to, I'm telling you this right now, anybody who wants to link to my work or even scrape the entire article, as long as there's attribution and a link back to my original text, so that I, as the copyright holder, I, as the originator of the copyright, the originator of the content, get a link back to my site. I have no problem with it. The other day, actually, one of my articles that was on that came from my blog went to Zero Hedge, and then from Zero Hedge went to oilprice.com. Now, oilprice.com, I'm not a big fan of, but they took my article and they scraped it and they posted it. It was something about Nord Stream 2. Well, there wasn't a link back to my article in the article. There wasn't a link back to my blog. They didn't link my name. They didn't say this work was originally published on tomluongo.me. No, they linked it from Zero Hedge and thought that was good enough. I sent them email, said, look, you copied my work without giving me proper attribution. The only reason I found out about it at all, not because I go to Oil Price on a regular basis, is because I embedded another link to another one of my other articles and then saw that in my traffic stats and went, hey, what the hell is Oil Price doing? So I went and checked the article out, as I always do. And then I wrote them a nastygram. I said, look, don't you do that ever again. They never got back to me. One of these days, I'm going to have a friend of mine. I'll have a friend of mine who's a lawyer do some pro bono work for me and send them a C&D just to remind them that no matter who you think you are in this world, you're not bigger than the actual copyright law. I mean, I'm an anarcho-capitalist and all that stuff, but I'm going to use the law. As long as the laws exist, I'm going to use it. But the basic way that we get around this as small content creators, as small music publishers or writers or artist or whatever, is to put our work up there under Creative Commons license, which is the way mine is, and not charge a licensing fee. Why would I do so? I want people to read my work. See, the large organizations are fighting economic deflation. The value of their work is dropping dramatically. The price of their work is dropping dramatically because of people like myself and others and other citizen journalists. Not really that I consider myself a citizen journalist, mind you, but that they're losing that fight. And you see it in the mainstream media all the time, complaining about, well, this investigative journalism costs money and you need to subscribe to our work, or you can only have 3 articles a month to read or whatever. Fine, you do whatever you want, guys. At the end of the day, I got news for you. You're not going to be able to continue to erect a barrier around this information. Okay? You're not going to be able to do it. It's just not going to happen. And I've been saying for years that IP law is just dumb, because intellectual property is fundamentally not property. It's not. It's not property. You can't patent an idea. I'm sorry. An idea exists. It's just to be illuminated. But whatever. That's another discussion for another day. So, but they're fighting deflation. The value, the price of the information that they put out is tending towards zero, as it always is under a free market. And none of these people are free marketeers. They're all looking for rent. They're all looking for unearned wealth. And the EU is acting as a classic corporatist, fascist organization, trying to erect a barrier to entry to pick winners and losers in the marketplace. And so they want Google and Facebook and whoever else is large enough to survive and disseminate the information and police it all in order to stop, in order for them to continue making money, and in order for the EU to no longer come under any criticism. And they're all happy until the whole thing collapses. Because at the end of the day, all of this is uneconomic. Links, mashups, all that stuff, it's all free advertising. Right? Yeah, they can send journalists around the world and they can't seem to pay for it all. Well, that's because their business models are unsustainable. Large-scale news organizations like Reuters and UPI and Bloomberg and all these people, they're all at the end of the day unsustainable. The BBC, all of it, it's all unsustainable. Every bit of it. And the same thing with music creator, content creators, doesn't matter. Okay? You can't defend, once something's in the public domain, you can't defend its ability to be disseminated around the world. You can try. You can have people point guns at other people and say, don't do that anymore. You can do that. You can try. It's not going to work. At some point, someone will just take a picture of it or just screen cap it and send it out without a link. See, here's the best part about it. What's going to happen in response to this is that no more are people going to link back to the articles that they scrape from. They're just going to put the article name. They're just going to we'll just do something different. We won't link directly anymore. We'll just quote stuff and put the thing at the bottom and put something at the bottom of the page saying found originally on the Washington Post here or whatever. And it's just going to make it impossible eventually for them to figure out what it is that we've done. Because fundamentally, I believe in the creativity of people to get around the controllers. If people want the information, they're going to get the information. Okay? Because you can't stop everybody. You can try, but it won't work. And at the end of the day, the worry over this, and it is a worry, and don't get me wrong, the bill is monstrous, it's stupid, it's insane, it's horrible, and it shouldn't exist. And no, you shouldn't stop fighting it because the forces of the free market will ultimately win out. I was just watching David Cullen's takedown on this, and he doesn't believe that the free market will be able to cope with this. I'm like, the free market's coped with everything else in the past. The free market developed the internet. It'll develop a version of the internet and internet protocols that will get around the content filters and get around the content sniffers. And the EU, and the other thing is that when the EU does something like this, of course this will be a model for the rest of the world. But but at the end of the day, the other thing you have to ask yourself is the EU overreaching here? Is this too much? Is this a bridge too far? When people say, well, they'll shut this down, they'll shut that down, I just say, okay, that's nice. The Pirate Bay. The Pirate Bay. Today, if it's not the Pirate Bay, it's 1337, it's 1337x.to or whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. They can't stop it. They can't stop Bitcoin. They can't stop anything else. What happens when the platforms themselves are no longer private property companies? Because that's the next iteration. This is the part that no one understands. No one is getting it, but it's coming. What happens when the people who make up the network are the network and are the owners and also are the storage facilities and everything else? Distributed autonomous units or corporations, whatever you want, DACs are coming. They're already here, right? And this is where platforms like Neo and EOS and some others are very, very interesting as to what they're thinking of Steemit. What they're proposing is you can't make us take something down on mines, for example. It's encoded into the Ethereum blockchain or the Steemit blockchain. How are you going to take something off of Steemit? Force somebody to take something down because it violates copyright law. You're not going to be able to do it. You're not going to be able to, what are you going to do? Sue them for 30 cents? I mean, this is the fun part about this. At the end of the day, what are you going to do? You're going to sue me? You're going to sue me for taking it down? Fine, I'll have to move off of WordPress. I'll have to move to a different blogging platform. So maybe I will move my blog to Steam or to some other thing. I can do that. I can just as easily tell Zero Hedge to go look at my Steemit blog as opposed to my tomluongo.me if they want my article that bad. Since they scrape pretty much every article that I write, regardless of what platform it's on. It can go there. It can come from there. And then there's no way that anybody can get around it. It's encoded on the blockchain. You can't take it away. It's been copyrighted. I have copyright over that version of it. Tough shit. Bring it, bring it. What are you going to do? You're going to charge me $1,000? For what? That's the point. At some point, it's like Gary North used to say a long time ago. This is one of the things, the last point. Gary North said a long time ago that when the government issues a new edict that's completely insane in terms of the amount of enforcement costs, paperwork, this, that, and everything else, what he always said was the same thing. Fine. Adhere to the strict letter of what they asked for. They write these rules with the idea that people will only barely, minimally comply with them in order to, because it's one of those things where we want to comply with them as little as possible to cost us as little as possible. That makes it that rides everybody on the knife edge as to whether they're actually complying. So then they can pick and choose who they want to go after, and then they can do pick and choose policing of the rule. And then the rule kind of stays in place and everybody kind of gets used to it and everything else. No. Bury them in paperwork. The best way to beat the bureaucrats is to bury them in paperwork. Give them work to do. Force them to file all this paperwork. Force them to file all this crap. Force them to deal with all this stuff. It's like, I don't fear the fact that the NSA and the CIA and everybody else are scraping every phone call I make and every Skype call I make. I don't care. And every email I send, I don't care. It's all in a huge freaking database that no one can even sort through. It winds up being the warehouse at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark. They're burying themselves in information they don't know what to do with. So while I agree that Article 11 and Article 13 are monstrous and stupid and unbelievable and just insane, aside from the fact that it's bad for the companies that they're trying to protect. Because if you think that their stuff is so worth it, you would have not gotten around to their paywall in the first place. It's all built on this faulty premise that their stuff has value. But it doesn't. It's like the record industry has been complaining about this stuff for years, that, oh, we're losing billions of dollars a year to illegal downloads. No, you're not. No one was. Those billions of dollars were sales you were never going to make because the people value the stuff at zero. Fucking retards. But what you can't get it through the authoritarian mindset. You can't. I have something that's worth money. I want my cut. Your cut is, I gave you free advertising. That's what I did. That's your cut. Get over it. That's all it's worth. That's all it's worth. It's all it's ever been worth to that particular person. Well, I say it's worth $9 and you have to pay me $9 for it. Okay. www.thepiratebay.se. Ding, okay. Thank you. We're done. So, when it comes to this stuff, it'll be places like the Wall Street Journal and Fox and the BBC and the rest of the New York Times. They're all trying to circle the wagons. Another aspect of this is that they circle the wagons against their own failing business models. Their business models are garbage, and they're falling, and they're failing. Amazon, for example, I'll give you a perfect example. You have to look at it that way, right? Another example of a business model that's failing, one of the classic arguments that the left makes against Walmart and Amazon is that Walmart's destroyed the mom and pop shops locally by creating big supercenters, and then Amazon's now like killing Walmart and all the other mom and pop shops by doing away with retail. They missed the point, which is that those business models of selling easily cross-shop goods and holding inventory and all that is a massive waste of time and a massive inefficiency within our economy. That Amazon would be better off just keeping a showroom of all the easily cross-shop stuff so people can kind of walk through every once in a while and look at a TV set or whatever, and that's that. And then the rest of it's all done online, and they just ship it to you directly. It's cheaper. We use real estate more efficiently. We use everything more efficiently, and the stuff just comes to your door. It's a business model whose time has come and gone because the cost of transmission of information has dropped to zero. And they've lost control of the wire, and they're trying to get control of the wire back. I've said this before. I wrote an article months ago about have they lost control of the wire. The wire is the metaphor for the transmission system from one place to of one thing to somewhere else. And the internet is the ultimate wire. And they want control of it because they want to be able to control the information on it. But they can't because the cost of transmission across the wire is now nearly zero. I'm still not good. Yeah, there it is, zero. All right? So to me, this just looks like yet another silly moment of overreach by a group of people who cannot understand that their time has come and gone. We're moving into a period here. What they're trying to do, the EU is trying to do, is move towards a non-democratic superstate in order to kill off the idea of the Bismarckian nation state. That's their goal. Now and they're trying to then do that and export that model around the world. That's the ultimate argument here. They're trying to do the same thing. They're trying to now destroy private property by codifying private property and making copyright law, by strengthening copyright law, which is insane. So yeah, at the end of the day here, I kind of look at all this stuff and I'm like, it's horrible, it's monstrous, but at the end of the day, we're going to bury them in paperwork. And they're not going to be able to, and the cost of enforcement will far outweigh the benefit, and the whole thing will collapse. If the New York Times tries to enforce a $1,000 per link or even a $10 per link license fee, they'll find quickly that people will stop linking to their work will become marginalized, the traffic will drop like a rock, the readership will drop like a rock, and then that license fee will quickly drop to zero. That's what's coming with Article 13 and Article 11. That's what's coming. And every stupid, half-baked European musician who thinks that the link tax and the license to share is their path to riches on the internet are insane. The better way to ensure that people get remunerated for the work that they produce in a timely manner is for people who use the work in real time via an incentive system and pay them for it. Steemit's model is the model for the future of the internet, not the EU's. All right. And even though Steemit's got its issues in terms of how it was, in terms of its cost structure and share structure and all that, is irrelevant. What they produced is the model for the future. Whether it's going to be Steam or Minds or some other version of the social network, that's what's coming. That's what's interesting. And that model will outlast the EU's model. So that if someone like, a writer over at the New York Times wants to get paid for their work, it's very simple. You want to get paid for the work directly? You should create a token, an Ethereum blockchain token, whatever, and get paid in those tokens for people reading your work and liking the work. That's the way you do it. And you do away with the intermediary corporation between the content producer and the content consumer. Shrink that gap to zero, which is what's coming. And I think the EU might have just accelerated that process. All right. That sounds like a stream. It's a little incoherent there towards the end as I was just kind of thinking through, because I'm off my talking points at this point. So that sounds like a stream. I'm good. Tonight I'll be on with Halsey and Dustin at 10:30. We'll probably talk about Brexit, maybe a couple of other things. Again, you can follow my work over at tomluongo.me. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please, please, please Give a like and subscribe down below. Throw a share out there. Get it to your friends. Let's the more people I get into this stream, the more people I get into the channel, the better. So we can have reasonable and rational conversations, even when I'm off my meds. All right, you guys take care. You have a great afternoon. We'll talk soon. Keep your stick on the ice.